Well, good afternoon, Rotarians. If you'll stand with me, I want to welcome you to the Thursday, May 27th meeting of your Irving, Las Colinas Rotary Club, serving 84 years, or celebrating 84 years of service to our community. Our invitation today will be led by Reverend Bill Lamar. Patty Caperton will lead us in our pledge. Neil and Sandra will lead us in singing God Bless America. And Laura Manning will introduce our visiting Rotarians guests. Bill?
As we go to our time of prayer, we have two people that are with our club that we need to remember. Mikey out here, his twin brother is not expected to live through the day. And so just want to lift him up. And then Bill Wood, longtime member of this club, is a serious liver cancer patient. Saw him a week ago, and I mean, Bill's down to about 120 pounds, if you remember him, and just received word that he has fallen and broken 3 ribs and is in the hospital. And so I'm going after the meeting and this afternoon on my way home to see Bill. So let's remember Mikey's brother and Bill as we go to our time of prayer. Eternal God, we give you thanks for the blessings of this day, for the rain that has fallen on us, and for the break in the rain. We're happy for that. Wish it wasn't quite as muggy and humid, but you know, we can't always be satisfied. And you know that. We give you thanks for this club and its work in our community. And as the flags go out on this Memorial Sunday, we give thanks for all of the effort that has gone into that program, that mission of our club. We ask your spirit upon that, upon our work, upon our club, upon this food that is before us. Bless it, bless our club, and take it to the nourishment of our bodies, and keep us this day in your peace. In the name of the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Patty.
As we honor those this weekend who have served in military service for our country, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does a great job there. Well, Laura was going to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Okay, we have Tom as our speaker today, but we'll hear all about him in a little bit. Joe Lopez, guest of the General Conference.
Hi, Joe.
And Angela Howard is here with Kathy.
Hi, Angela. Well, let's give all of our visiting Rotarians and guests a warm welcome. Thank you to each of you. Lazaro, I was going to have you come up and give us an update on the activities last Saturday. A lot of people out running, great weather.
It actually ended up being a great weather day wise for running because it looked like it was going to rain. So it was kind of cloudy. So it wasn't sunny and hot. So the weather held off for the event, which some of you guys were here participating. We ended up with 1,487 people registering for this first time event. It was a Fiesta de Mayo theme. We had students from all over. Actually, we had a Travis Middle School mariachi band perform. It was about 12 of them. We had a folkloric dancing team from the Irving Performing Arts Academy that was there performing their folkloric dance. And we had people from Colombia, from Mexico, from all over the world came to do this event. And it was like I said, it was very, very well organized. The police department did a really good job. We had about 48 police officers up there from 5:30 in the morning until about 10:30, organizing the whole structure. And then we had a really good turnout from our team. We ended up having a lot of volunteers as well that came on board over the last week, so it made the job a little easier. So with that said, we have a ton more events coming up. We're Assistant General Alzapanta with Olympic Day, which is June 26th. There's other events going on as well, like a basketball tournament being organized by Parks and Rec. So as we open up, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in the community to promote that healthy lifestyle. So there's going to be a lot of this that you're going to be seeing. And it is part of our mission that we started a couple of years back, which is to make Irving the preferred running location for North Texas. COVID kind of set us back a little bit, but now that we're back, we're looking forward to see what we can do. And we always thank you for your support and everybody here for the club as well. So thank you. Yeah.
What a great program that helps benefit our community and helps some of the young people with obesity. So we thank you, Lazaro, for that. I do want to acknowledge we got a few people joining us online today. So Tracy's there. Hey, Tracy. Our new member Jasmine's joining us online today. So Jasmine, we're waving at you. So you wave back. We're glad they're joining us virtually today. Our speaker, though, is in the house. So we're going to go straight to our program today. So Mara Gast will be introducing our program. Mara, come on up. Give it up to Mara now. All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Happy almost Memorial Day, and I know we have a number of veterans, so thank you all for your service. And thank your families for their service too. I am closing out this month of National Travel and Tourism. It's only supposed to be a week long, but we take liberties and take it for the whole month. So we're going to close out today with Tom Meehan. Tom is the current general manager of the Irving Convention Center at Las Colinas. It's actually technically the third general manager of the convention center. He became the third general manager 6 months after we opened, and Tom and I knew that was the plan, but not everybody else knew that was the plan. But, he's been with us since we began. You guys saw in the emails a lot about his background. Even though ASM, which is the company that we contract to run the building with, is a contractor, they are our partner in every step of the way. Our staff offices inside the convention center with Tom and his team, and we work very hard from the beginning of this effort to make sure that it's a seamless experience both for our customers, but equally seamless for our staff members. And it's a very good blended family, and Tom is the reason that it works. Tom, like all of us, has had a beating of a year. It's been a rough one, and Tom has kind of really had the brunt of that, and our operation can tell you a little bit about that. Lazaro, as of about 3 minutes ago, I actually finished the 5K. So I feel really, really good about it. I do want to take a moment just to say this. Lazaro, you've had sole ownership of the running series for 2 years, 3 years now. 2 years. We deal with a lot of startups in our world, and a lot of people who come into Irving and say, I'm going to put on the blank. And from the beginning, with Ronnie before Lazaro and now Lazaro, this has been the work they produce, the events they produce are first class quality, and you think they've been at it for a lifetime. So congrats on another great event. You have come through this past year with a boatload of challenges too, and you have done it with temerity and grace and commitment, and I appreciate you and the partner you are. So enough of that. Lazaro, but with that, Speaking of temerity, dedication, professionalism, all that good stuff, my friend, my partner, Tom Meehan.
Thank you, Maura, for that introduction. And congratulations to Neil on 90 years. This weekend, I'm traveling back home for my father's 90th birthday party. In true Irish fashion, the theme of the party is beers and cheers for 90 years. And so we plan on having a good time with him this weekend. But thank you for having me here today. I spoke here about 2 years ago. Times were much different 2 years ago than they are today. And, you know, I think this month that we've made National Travel and Tourism Week is the appropriate time to have this right now. With everything that's happened over the last 14 months, we are really at the point of really kind of starting over again and starting this whole process back up that we started 11 years ago. So it really does come as a good time at this time. So as the general manager of the Irving Convention Center, I work for a company, as Morris said, called ASM Global. We used to be SMG. About 2 months before the pandemic hit, we merged with AEG Facilities and became a very, very large company. But what a way to start a company when you shut all your facilities across the United States down at one time. So we have definitely had our challenges. As a company, we have 61,000 employees across the United States and in Asia Pacific, Europe, and Latin America. And we are just a very big company. We run stadiums, arenas, convention centers, equestrian centers, theaters, you name it, all across the country. We operate the world's largest convention center in China, which is over 2 million square feet of space. It's basically a city in itself. So it's just an amazing project out there. So our contract to operate the Irving Convention Center, as Moore said, is with her and the ICBB. So I'm really just a line item on Moore's budget every year. We've been doing this for 10 years. Every year we have seen growth from the previous year. We have grown year over year for 10 years until this year. This year was just a little bit different. So what do we do as a company, as ASM Global? We run this facility, all aspects of this facility. We run basically as a separate entity from all the other city buildings. We pay our own bills, we pay our own staff, we keep the building up to date, we make changes to the building, we improve the building, we operate the building fully. And under my leadership, I have 5 departments. It starts with the sales department. My sales department works very closely with Lori Fatasic, who you heard in week 1 here, in booking the building. Generally, we are responsible for booking the building inside of 1 year, and the CBB books the building 1 year now. A lot of the business that we do, we work together all the time. So even though there's some guidelines in place, we work so closely together as a team there. All the salespeople from both sides are just right there together. And it makes doing business so easy with people. It's just amazing. So the sales department works in booking the shows for the building. It's led by Director of Sales, Matt Tungett. He has about 3 members on his staff that work continuously to book the building. Once we book an event, that event is turned over to the next department, which is the events department, and it's assigned an event manager who actually will work with that client every single detail of their show, whether it's food and beverage, whether it's staging, chairs, tables, bike rack, whatever it is, that event manager works with the client in every single aspect of that event. So we have about, right now we got 3 event managers left. And they do a tremendous job. It is the hardest job in the convention center. They work their tails off day in and day out. If the client comes in at 6 o'clock in the morning and the client leaves at midnight, they are there from 6 a.m. until midnight. If the client comes back in at 6 a.m., they are back in at 6 a.m. So it's a very, very demanding job, and they do a phenomenal job. Once the event manager plans all the events, they work with the next department, which is the operations department. These are the guys that set everything up. They build the stages, they set the chairs, they set the tables. We handle security for the event. We handle parking for the event. We handle housekeeping for the event. That department handles everything associated with making that event happen and making sure that our client is very, very successful. If there's food involved in the event, of course, we have our food and beverage department, Savor Las Colinas. And if any of you have ever been to the building and had any kind of meal there, you'll know how incredible our executive chef, Eduardo Alvarez, does with food in our building. Food is so important in our operation. We do over $6 million a year gross in food and beverage alone. And for a building that is the size of this building, that is an astronomical number. And that's what makes this building work. Okay, we offset food and beverage, or we offset rent with food and beverage, so our rent is generally lower as a hotel would do. But we do $6 million in food and beverage every year. And that's what makes this convention center run. The next department is, after the event is over, we have a finance department that has to collect all the money, make sure everything is paid, close out the event. They're also responsible for collecting the data for the month from all the events and putting together our monthly financials that we present every month at the board meeting that we attend. So that's kind of the 5 departments that are under me. Under myself, I have an executive assistant, Amanda, who handles all the contracts for the building. I have an HR manager that works for me that is really kind of bored because we don't really have a lot of employees right now. So that's my departments that make this building run and make it very successful. And like I said, for 10 years, you can look at our numbers, and if you had to draw a chart, every year the numbers just keep going up. So it's really an incredible building. So where are we today? And it's probably, when you think of a convention center, 14 months since this pandemic started. How have we changed? How have we survived? Is the question that many people want to know. And I'm going to answer some of these questions. First, I want to kind of give you a few numbers to put things in perspective for you on where we're at this year. In 2020, last year, we survived the year only because the first 6 months of the year before the pandemic hit, we were on a record-setting, blistering pace. I mean, absolutely incredible pace. I went to every board meeting, month to month, for the first 6 months, grinning ear to ear, just touting how incredible we were doing that year and the pace that we were on. And then the pandemic hit. So I never went back. This year's a little bit different. We didn't have the first 6 months to rely on. We started at 0. And just to give you an idea of what this year looks like, and I got to remind you, our year starts October 1st and ends on September 3rd. So we're about 7 months into our year right now. And I talk about catering, how important it was to our building. Last year, 7-month mark, we were at almost $2.4 million in catering at this point. That's a net. In 2019, we were at about just over $2 million. This year, we're at $115,000. You can see the impact that this pandemic has had on the building. If you look at total event income, meaning taking all the events that we've had and all the income that has come in from these events, last year we were just over almost $3.1 million. This year, $804,000. So a lot's happened over the past year. So what did we do over the past 14 months? We weren't really open. We had very, very few shows. And in the beginning, when we shut down, the thinking was, okay, this is going to be a month or two, and then we'll get back at it. And after a month or two, we thought, well, that didn't happen. So what are we going to do now? We had to start taking everything that was on our books and talking to all of our clients because we couldn't have their shows, and we had to move them all. We either had to move them all or we had to refund their money, basically. So we moved a lot of events, and we moved them 6 months down the road thinking, okay, we'll be fine in 6 months. We'll just put them on the calendar in 6 months, and we got them all dates and stacked the calendar up for the second half of the year. And then we got to that point where we were getting worse. So a lot of the beginning of the time was moving events and replanning the calendar to figure things out. And it's a lot of events. We're not talking about 5, 10 events. We're talking, 100 events that we were trying to move to a different time period. And some of them didn't work, and we just had to refund the money, and they would book again the following year, or we would move their deposits to the following year. So it didn't take long to realize that this wasn't going to be a short-term problem. This was going to be a long-term problem. And month by month, we just kept continuing to lose events. We knew at that point that something drastic had to change. I had to protect financial stability of the building. As I said, I'm a line item on Moore's budget, and I didn't want to be a huge burden, so we had to figure out how do we reduce the expenses of this building and keep the cost very minimal month to month. And that took some hard changes, took some hard decisions at that point. In April, I had to, this is a year ago, April 2020, I had to furlough over half of my staff. Just couldn't, there was nothing for anybody to do at that point. By the end of December, 6 months later, I began to realize, there's not even enough business in the future to keep those, and I ended up having to lay off almost all of those employees that were on furlough. So that, payroll is one of the biggest expenses of any operation is payroll. So that was the first thing that we had to start to cut. And then we looked at all of our contracts, and we have a lot of contracts for this building, whether it's housekeeping or landscaping or mechanical contracts. And we have to start looking at them and say, how can we reduce these down? We took like landscaping and reduced it down to, instead of every week, every 2 weeks. It wasn't until just a couple of weeks ago when I drove in, I happened to glance over at the flower bed, and I was like, oh my God, the weeds were about tall. Some things that were growing that I've never seen before. So I said, well, we got to get this under control before Las Colinas Association comes after us. So we did that, but we had to look at all of our contracts. And a lot of our contractors worked with us. They would reduce down our monthly rate, or they would stop their service for a few months to save us money. We tried to dig and find everything that we could at that point. And then we had to think about the building. And the hardest part of this whole thing for the year was you never knew what was going to happen month to month. You just didn't know. You didn't know if next month was going to get better and things would start improving and business would come back. You just didn't know. So you're planning for the uncertainty. But we had to look at the building and say, okay, what do we need to do to get the building ready for whenever business decides to come back? Because things changed. All through this pandemic, the way business has been conducted was changing constantly. So one of the biggest things we did was within our company, we have a program called Venue Shield, which is basically a COVID-19 safe plan. We had to implement this plan in the building and change the building so that when people and clients decided to come back, they would feel safe doing so. The plan included everything from environmental hygiene to the customer journey. And customer journey means just like today. How did you come into the building? How is the seating arranged? What is the space between tables? When you have aisles and shows, you do one-way traffic and you bring them through. So it's about how the customer comes into the building and how to put on a show in a safe and effective manner. The food service operation. Food service changed greatly. You still see it here today. There's no buffets. There's no people going through lines getting their own food. A lot of the stuff that we do now, for instance, the glasses on your table, we would have covers on them. The way we serve is different. Every aspect of food and beverage operation is different. Concessions is totally different. it's just a whole change in the process of how to protect people and how to protect and serve you in the most safe way possible. So, you know, a lot of things had to change. Even technology changed. In our escalators in the building, inside the pits where the arm rails go down, we have UV lights in there that constantly clean that handrail on the escalators as you're going up. It runs through UV lights. UV lights kill germs. Clorox 360 machines, which is a huge thing for us. And basically, it's a machine that it basically sprays a mist, and it's a Clorox 360 product that kills bacteria, it kills COVID. So we spend every day spraying. You know, if this event ended, we would come through and we would spray this room, spray the tables, spray the chairs. We would spray everything down before we put it away. In the office, we spray the offices. You come in the office the next morning, early in the morning, they spray your office before you come in. So we spray everything constantly. The cleaning of the building, the cleaning of the restrooms, the cleaning of the floor, the cleaning of the elevators, the cleaning of the escalators. All these things have to be put in place. And finally, the public awareness. People need to know what you're doing. Your clients need to know what you're doing. When they walk into the building and they see signage, and they see people cleaning, and they see people spraying, it gives them that sense of feeling safe. But at the same time, you don't want to overdo it. If they see you doing too much, they kind of get worried. Like, oh, maybe something's wrong. So you kind of got to balance that act out. We had to purchase a lot of supplies. We had to purchase a lot of supplies when everybody else in the world was trying to purchase supplies, trying to find gloves, trying to find masks, trying to find chemicals. It took us months to get the Clorox 360 machine because everybody in the world was ordering them, and the backup on them was taking forever. We were able to secure funding through the CARES Act and through the city that helped us purchase a lot of different items that we use in the building every day right now. And, you know, we've changed with the CARES Act money. We purchased a lot of stuff, not only masks and gloves and chemicals and all that stuff, but the temperature check machines, so that when we come in the office in the morning, we all check in, we get our temperature scan, and then we sign in. We have events now that use the machine, so every guest that comes in, has their temperature checked, and brings you out a green, either a tag for your wrist or a sticker that goes on your shirt. So we have a bunch of these temperature scanning machines. And then we had to install plexiglass just about everywhere. All of our concession stands, I had to install plexiglass. It had to look good. I couldn't just throw a piece of plexiglass in there. The office, when you go into our office now, it's all enclosed with plexiglass. Our cafe is all plexiglass. It's really good, but a lot of expense goes into getting your building ready for whenever the public is going to come back, whenever the business is going to be. We don't know when it's going to be. So, you know, the past 14 months has been just crazy. Most of us from last April have been working from home. My staff has been at home, more staff has been at home. I chose to go into the building every day. It's the only way I could function and the only way I sanity. And the highlight of my day was waiting for the mail to come. I separated that mail. I opened all the invoices and had to scan them to my finance department. I looked for a check, which very rarely came. And that was the highlight. Then I delivered the mail. I felt like the mailman. But I couldn't wait until 12:30, 1 o'clock for the mail came. But I stayed there day in and day out. We worked on a lot of projects in the building. Some of the projects we had funded the year before, which was a huge lighting project in our grand ballroom. The project that, and I hate to say this, but if the pandemic had never happened, we would have never, ever been able to do the project. It was just a time-consuming project, and we had no space on our calendar with the amount of business that we do every year to ever be able to do this project. So after 10 years, we took down all the lighting in the grand ballroom, which is virtually impossible to get to. We changed it all out to LED lighting. So one of the pluses that came away from. You know, I'm used to going 100 miles an hour, and my staff's used to going 100 miles an hour every single day. We do a tremendous amount of business every year. And really every year, we average about 265 events a year, right? And this year we'll do, most of that is coming now until the end of September. But over the past 10 years, we've done 2,669 events in that building, which is an awful lot of events for a building that size. But I'm used to going 100 miles an hour. For the last 14 months, trying to figure out what I was going to do each day was a real challenge. And what I found was that not doing anything, I was falling apart. I've had 3 surgeries since November. So it tells me don't ever retire, just keep working, because when you stop, things start to fall apart. So back on track now, I'm feeling better. It's starting to work out every day. The business coming back. Hopefully I'll stay hooked up and stay together from there. You know, so what does the past 2 and 3 months look like? 14 months has been boring. The last 2 months, we have done what we found out is cheer events and dance events, they don't stop for anything. They don't stop for pandemics. They're going to have their events every single day. So we've been doing an awful lot of cheer and dance competitions. That's been our number one event. So with my small staff, probably maybe 15 of us, we do everything. We set the tables, we set the chairs, we build stages. Doesn't matter if you're in the finance department or you're in the sales department or you're in the food and beverage department. We work concessions. On the weekends when these dance competitions are happening, concessions is a huge part of it. So we all work concessions over the weekend. And I can make some killer nachos if you ever come. I became the king of nachos. My background is 15 years of AMC movie theater, so concessions is a easy thing for me. So I was in the back and I made hamburgers, hot dogs, I made nachos. I can make all of that stuff. And we really have a good time doing it together. And it's just a small group of us. We all went through training to get our TABC license, which means I can serve alcohol now. We all went through our food service handling and got our certificates in that. When we have events where lunch is served, you'll find many of us out there serving lunch. We do it all. It doesn't matter what your position is. It doesn't matter that I'm the general manager. It doesn't matter if you're director of sales. It doesn't matter if you're director of finance. We do everything. That's where we're at right now. So what's the outlook for the future? It's been a horrible 14 months. But I can tell you that the phone is ringing. And last week, 2 different groups walked in. We had 2 walk-ins last week. The first 2 in 14 months, which was really amazing. I didn't even know what to do with it. I had to find somebody to help me. I just lost what I was doing. So that's starting to happen. In May here, we hosted an event called Graphics Pro Expo. This is a group that in March of last year, and it's a huge show. In March of last year, in the middle of their show, we had to shut them down. Halfway through their show, they shut down. They were back this year. We just hosted them a couple weeks ago. And when we got to the halfway point, we had a little celebration because we got through half of the show without getting shut down again. And it was really, really good. In May, we also hosted the 2021 USA Women's Wrestling Championships. We hosted the Capel High School Band Banquet. And we hosted the Sam Houston Prom. And we did it, and we hosted these events, doing everything in a safe manner for all of the events. And everything that we've worked on putting in place over the past 14 months and all the processes and procedures are in place to be able to have these events safely. In June coming up, and this happened kind of a couple months ago, you know, we're looking for money. We were really looking for money because we were way off of our budget. And like I said, I'm a line item on Moore's budget. I don't like to be a burden. I'm a very competitive person, and I have for 11 years figured out how to make it work. This year I ain't figured it out yet. But I went out and I dug, and we've been digging, you know, and I don't really do a whole lot of sales. I sign contracts, but I went out and found some events. Texas Cornhole League Signature Series, which is coming in June, is a huge cornhole tournament. I came from Shreveport, opened Shreveport Convention Center years ago. I happened to be on their website looking, and I saw Texas League Cornhole in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm like, what are they doing in Louisiana? I got on their site and looked, and I found an open date in June, and we called them. We got them here. Next thing you know, we went to contract, and we got the event done. So it's happening in June. I have 2 wrestling events. And this is not wrestling. This is wrestling. The fake stuff. I have 2 of those, one in June and one in August. And all these events are important because what they produce is not just a little bit of rent, but they produce an awful lot of concessions, beer sales, that kind of stuff. And that's what you get people in the building for these types of events. They spend their money on beer and alcohol and concessions and all that stuff. And that's where we make our money in. So we have 2 of those wrestling events, one in June, one in August. We have Steubenville, Dallas 2021. This is a huge one. This is a Catholic youth ministry conference with teenage kids. They come and they've been for the past few years. It's about 2,000 kids from all over the United States. And to be able to do that at this point in June is a huge accomplishment that they trusted us enough to get this event done for them. So they're coming in. And then our good old trusty 11th year of Zest Fest is coming. He'll be here Sunday, so it's the weekend after Memorial Day weekend. He was the first show in our building. He's been here every year. He's usually in January. January wasn't working well, so we got it pushed to June. So we're back to having Zest Fest this year next week. So June's looking pretty good. We're still not into corporate events yet, but it's a lot of public show events. So we're still lagging behind on the corporate side. It's just going to take them a little bit longer for most of these corporate companies to feel safe traveling again for having meetings. July and August are looking good. They're not packed with stuff, but they still have events in July and August. We're partnering with the city of Irving. We're going to handle the beer tent at the 4th of July celebration. So we will actually handle that part of it, and we're going to have a fun time doing it. By the time we get to September, you look at our calendar, we are packed full of events in September. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. And I think you're going to see this next year start heading back to where we used to be. It's going to take us, another year, 2 years to get back to where we were in 2019. So how are we going to end this year, September 30th? I have no clue. I tell Morris that all the time. I can usually pinpoint exactly where we're going to be. Every year, I know where we're going to be. And I have not been able to do that this year. It's been real frustrating not to be able to do that. But I can tell you that we are putting up an incredible fight. We are digging and clawing and scratching for every dollar we can get. And I think that the outlook is very bright. We look forward to getting back to business very hard, very fast, like we're used to doing. And I've had to remind most of my staff, in our world, our job and our business controls your life. because you could be at the building for 12 hours a day. You could be there for 14 days in a row because you're there to service the client. Past 14 months, you know, that hasn't been happening. So trying to get the staff readjusting to coming back to work and doing work, it's a challenge when you get away from it for that long. So if I look at between now and the end of 2021, the end of December, at what's on the books currently right now, and the number is increasing, we're about 45% of where we were back in 2019. So we're not there yet, but 45% at this point, I will take. So all in all, it's coming back. It's been a crazy 14 months. One that I'm sure none of us will ever forget. Had some bumps along the way. Many of you may have known Kelly Roche, who passed away from COVID. He's back. His office is still there. We still think about him every day. But we took our hits. Lost a lot of staff. Hopefully one day I can get back. We're just hits to get back. I think we'll do that very soon. That's about all I got today. Normally it's much different, but we haven't done anything for 14 months. It was all I could come up with when I was kind of writing this in my notes over the past week. I started looking at it. This is doom and gloom. I got to figure out something else to do. So I focused more, tried to focus on the future coming up, which is very, very bright. So if anybody has any questions, I will be here for more than that. Answer questions. That's a good question because I talked to a lot of our contractors that work for us, even housekeeping for us as a third party. Employees right now, to get employees is very, very difficult. I was in Jackson, Mississippi last week, and every time I went to a restaurant, they were only seating half of the restaurant because they didn't have enough employees to serve everybody. On Sunday, I went by Jason's Deli, was going to get something to eat. They were closed. They didn't have employees to open the dine. They didn't have enough people that could work. That's the challenge right now. The good thing is I won't hire more employees until my business levels dictate where I need to be. And hopefully by that time, the job market will change. The state's taking away the extra subsidy money on unemployment. It's going to force a lot of those people to go back and get jobs again and start working again. So I don't plan on really hiring again until probably sometime in October through December, just depending on what the business level looks like. Right now, I can deal with my small staff because we can handle what we have. Yes, sir. No. Yeah, that it's a great group. There's some challenges with them. That it was a financial decision for the building versus what we needed versus what they wanted. That just didn't make sense. We still hope one day to have them back. We still stay in communication with them. We'll just see where that goes. Yes. Okay, so for the first part, what's funny is when we are in our different roles, are serving food or making food or doing that stuff, we find new ways to do things all the time. And it doesn't have to be from, it can be the director of finance who has a suggestion on how to do something. Or as we've been out in the public at other venues or restaurants, you see things of how people do things or change how we do things from what we see out there, and what we learn from each other. So I think it's the whole food service industry has changed. And we will continue to evolve over time as things. We have to be adaptable. Things change month to month. As far as what everybody can do is when you're out there and you are involved in different organizations, you know people in organizations, tell them about us. A lot of people hear the word convention center and it scares them to death because you think of convention center as this gigantic building and I just have this small group of 100 people at a convention center, it's too big. That's not the truth. The truth is that's what we do, and that's what we do the best. We have the perfect spaces for it, and we have the greatest service to do it. So when you're out there, it's about spreading the word and about bringing your events over to the Irving Convention Center or to Irving in the hotel. It doesn't have to be the convention center. I plug the convention center because that's where I need business. So yes, get the word out. Get them in touch with us. We'll take care of it. Come to cornhole, come to wrestling, see what we do. It'll be a fun time. Yes, ma'am. They are all in-house, my event planners. They've got a lot of years of experience on them. One of the toughest things is to lose an event manager because it takes so long to get them trained. But most of the time when we lose an event manager, we're not losing them because they hate the job. We're losing them because they're moving up to a higher position somewhere else. That's a very satisfying feeling. So we are all there. Thank y'all very much for letting me be here today.
Thank you. Nice when sometimes they pull the curtains back and you really do see how hard people are working in certain industries to be ready so when the economy does pick up, we're properly prepared for it. Tom, we thank you. Mara, we thank you for our incredible programs. I told Mara before, but every May as a president, it's nice to know that you're going to have speakers. It's going to be well attended and very informative. So Mara, we thank you for doing that for us. I failed to mention earlier, so I just want to do this before we adjourn. I have our updated note here. We're getting close to that 1,500 figure on flags. We have 1,394. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to have another 106 flags in the next few days. $62,149 in revenue. We've already started putting flags out. Richard said they put them out yesterday at the Millennium Fountain. And I'm assuming with all the rest of the flags going out today or tomorrow, so the city will look outstanding for Memorial Day. So all of you that are helping, Kathy, do we have all the routes covered, or we need some more help getting routes covered? Hold my breath. 1,450. Just since the beginning of Rotary, we had another 56 flags come in. 1,450. All right. Well, if you haven't renewed your flag, now's a good time to do that. Hopefully we'll hit 1,500 flags. There's a picture of what it looks like at Millennium Fountain. So, outstanding. I do want to say shout out to Shane Webb, who's joined us online, and District Governors, Richard right there. Max Duplan is with us today. Hey, Max, we're glad you're here. So, and Jasmine, I remember there. I think Jasmine's up there. So we're well attended in the room and on our virtual meeting. Well, if you'll stand with me today, Harry Chris is going to lead us in our four-way test. I'll ask Madam President Linda Despain to come up. I actually forgot a moment ago. She's supposed to adjourn the meeting, so you can come on up. Harry, lead us in that. Linda will be adjourned. Good job, Harry. Thank you for that.
So in wrapping up, next week's program will be, we will highlight Paul Harris Fellow Awards and Rotary Foundation. Our next joint bi-monthly board meeting will be Thursday, June the 3rd at 10:30 a.m. But you will be texting us, right? And our next past president